Very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. This House has, of course, fundamentally a duty to respect the clear will of the people of the United Kingdom as delivered in the referendum, and to deliver our exit from the European Union as one United Kingdom. I regret to say that, in my view, the withdrawal agreement put forward by the Prime Minister and a majority, but not all, of the Cabinet falls short of this objective. To enter into this arrangement that has been put forward, first through the transition period as proposed and then the backstop provisions, means we enter a twilight world where the EU is given unprecedented powers over the UK, certainly in the transition period, and massive leverage in the negotiations on the future trade relationship. And we would have to rely on the goodwill of others to let us ever leave these arrangements. So under these terms, in my view, the UK's future as a strong and independent global trading nation standing together is in real and imminent jeopardy. An outcome that doesn't honour the result of the referendum or take back control of our laws, our money and our borders. Yes, I will.
I thank the Right Honourable Member for giving way. I'm sure he'll agree with me that it's ironic that whilst the Prime Minister is out on her roadshow trying to sell this deal to the great and the good, the place that it actually matters is this House, and she has managed to unite this House against this deal.
Well, thank my honourable friend for that intervention. I mean, I think there is a point here that this deal doesn't satisfy anybody. Leave voters are outraged at what they see as the betrayal of Brexit, and Remain voters are asking what on earth is the point of losing all our say but still taking all the EU rules. The political declaration, despite previous promises, does not set out a clear, precise future relationship and raises significant issues in its own right. And the legally binding withdrawal agreement, which we're now told to somehow take on faith that it might never be used, even though 18 months has been spent negotiating it, nobody actually wants it. That nobody actually wants it. But as the Attorney General made clear yesterday, in a very forthright and candid session before the House, he made it clear that there's no unilateral exit clause, no unilateral right to terminate. It's indefinite. The whole thing was undesirable, unsatisfactory, unattractive, and a calculated risk. Hardly the most ringing endorsement for reasons why this House should actually vote for it.
Thank my honourable friend for giving way. In relation to commitments given in paragraph 50 to both our party and to the House, they don't seem to be any reference within the document which has been produced.
That's right.
Well, again, I'm grateful to my honourable friend because, as I have said on a number of occasions and asked the Prime Minister this, and I've yet to receive a reason for this. Hundreds of detailed legal clauses in hundreds of pages devoted to the Northern Ireland situation and the backstop, but not a single word, not a single line in relation to paragraph 50, which followed paragraph 49 in the joint report in December, which was inserted specifically to allow that the final say in any regulatory differences between Great Britain and Northern Ireland should be, the final decision on that should rest with the Northern Ireland Assembly and the Executive. Yet none of that appears anywhere in the withdrawal agreement, and we have received no satisfactory explanation as to why that has been deleted. And indeed, the assurances given at the time that the backstop would be UK-wide, that there wouldn't be this sort of special carve-out or provision for Northern Ireland. So the whole concept of this backstop, of course, is a nonsense. Deciding a fallback position, deciding an insurance policy before even starting the talks or reaching any decisions on the final arrangements was always a nonsense. And the whole process has been bedevilled by the fact that so much time has been spent on negotiating something that we're now told nobody wants and nobody will ever actually want to see introduced, and other arrangements will be brought into place. Quite frankly, some of the words that have been spoken, and this is an issue of trust, because some of the things that were told to this House and told to us directly as a party during those negotiations have not come to pass. I remind this House of what the Prime Minister said on the 28th of February in 2018 to this House. where she said that we cannot undermine the UK common market, threaten the constitutional integrity of the UK by creating a customs and regulatory border down the Irish Sea, and no UK Prime Minister could ever agree to it. Customs and regulatory. This is precisely now what the government is proposing. This is what they're now proposing. The Prime Minister in term said on the 20th of February that no UK Prime Minister could ever accept that. And therefore, now we're being asked to take on trust the word of the government, and who knows what the government will be in 2 years' time, or 3 or 4, whenever these negotiations come to an end. Who knows what the European Commission and the European Parliament will look like at that time. But we do know that the final text of this withdrawal agreement will remain, and it will be the thing that will stand and will endure, and it will be the thing that will be the only reference point that will be used, and that commits that after we come to the point where we decide either to go into a period, this transition period of 2 years, but even if we don't get a deal after that, and there's absolutely no guarantee that we would have any such deal after that period of time, that we automatically go into the backstop arrangements, which puts large swathes of rules and laws in relation to single market for goods and agri-food, not just the building on the regulatory differences that are there now, because the regulatory differences that are there now between Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom, decided by this Parliament, decided by the Assembly and the previous legislatures, those are there for health reasons. They're not there because we're in a different regime. The reason we would have checks, the reason we would have differences, is because Northern Ireland would be in a different regime, the single market regime, subject to enforcement by the European Commission, subject to oversight by the European Court of Justice. And then on the customs arrangements, it is simply untrue to say that somehow we're all in one big customs union together. Northern Ireland is in the EU customs union, but there is a special customs arrangement that is created. UK, EU and Northern Ireland is therefore part of that. That is, quite frankly, to me as a unionist, something that is unacceptable. We were told by the Prime Minister in her 6 declarations to the people of Northern Ireland in December that she would ensure that Northern Ireland left the European Union with the rest of the United Kingdom, that no part of the United Kingdom would be left in the single market or the customs union, that this would be no part of the UK would be left subject to the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice. Now, whether you agree that that's a good thing or not, the fact is these commitments and pledges were made and they're now being broken. And quite frankly, Mr. Speaker, we heard yesterday, and I go back to what the attorney said, because it is important, and we look forward to the legal advice that will now be published tomorrow as a result of the government finally acceding to the will of the House on this issue. The fact of the matter is that there is no get-out clause from the withdrawal agreement. It is in the gift of the European Union as to how we get out, when we get out, and on what terms we get out. Now, the concern that many of us have is that whatever the short-term consequences of entering the backstop may be, the real danger lies in the future. When it comes to the point that a final arrangement, a final trade deal is agreed, whatever that may look like, it is clear that there will be those who will say, in other jurisdictions and in other governments, who will say, well, UK, you can have whatever arrangement you like, but there's one thing certain, as far as Northern Ireland is concerned, we still don't accept that there can be no hard border using technical, administrative and technological. So you are going to have to stay, Northern Ireland, within the customs union and the single market. There will be leverage that will be exercised by other governments on other issues, but I have no doubt that that will be an argument that will be used, and it won't be our decision, even if we disagree with that, even if we put forward counter-arguments, even if we put forward other proposals. Nobody in Northern Ireland, no one in this House will have the final say as to what happens. It will be the decision of the European Union as to whether or not they allow us to leave on whatever terms it may be. There are lots of contradictory arguments being put forward by the government in Northern Ireland. We're told here all the time that nobody wants this. The Irish Republic don't want it. The European Union don't want it. The UK doesn't want it. And yet in Northern Ireland, the Secretary of State is going around telling everybody it's the best possible solution, best possible outcome. So if it's the best possible outcome, why is everybody else saying that it should never be used? It's temporary. We're told it's temporary. We now know that, of course, legally speaking, it may be desired to be temporary, but it is indefinite. Mr. Speaker, there's lots of frustration. There's lots of things that we could say. I haven't any time to, obviously, to develop this, but quite frankly, a lot of people in Northern Ireland feel that the government, the Prime Minister, the pledges that were made have not been honoured. We're sad about this. We deeply regret that. I admire the Prime Minister's stamina, her resilience and the work that she's doing. But on this, I think she has misjudged the mood of the country and the mood of the House.
Thank you.